Want help to grow your business? Download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.
Hello and welcome to Empire Builders. Now, most people are trying to build a personal fortune out of property and retire from work early. Well, how about trying to build a property portfolio worth more than $20 million by the time you're only the age of 30? Well, today I'm joined by a young property investor, Nathan Birch, from a company called Bizversity, and he's certainly going to tell you how he managed to do more than that himself. Good to see you, Nathan.
Thank you, Chris.
Now, every time I see you, you're worth about another $5 million. You keep buying all these properties.
That's it.
Do you want to tell the viewers how old are you now and roughly how much do you own?
Just turned 30, mate, and I own over 170 properties, and it's about 37 million, so just over 35 million now. So
That's certainly impressive. Now, let's start off. Let's tell the viewers the dream at the moment.
Yep.
Like, not everyone's into money, but just tell us what kind of things you can do with that kind of wealth at the moment.
yeah, people often make reference to I'd rather be happy than rich and all that sort of stuff, and I don't think that building a property portfolio and becoming wealthy from it has changed my life in any different way, except for it gives me choices to do things that I want on my terms. So, the choice of not having to go to work, I successfully retired from the workforce at the age of 24, and ditched the suit to wear thongs every day, and today I'll put on a nice blazer for us to have a talk. So.
And that's the thing, because we've gone on national TV before, and you've kind of almost turned up in a hoodie and your thongs and the jeans. Is that's the whole thing? Is you don't necessarily have to answer to anyone. So if you want to be shorts and t-shirt, you're shorts and t-shirts. That's the great thing I like with you. It's like take it or leave it. This is the way I am. And this is what you're going to get.
That's it. I look at property as a part of the jigsaw puzzle in my life. I don't look at it and say, okay, I want to have lots of money or anything like that. I look at it and go, how can I use property and leverage it to get myself to a position where I'm happy and comfortable? And certainly I'm there now, and I think the best days lie ahead though. So. Yeah.
And look, I mean, certainly you're not into the private jets and all that kind of thing. I think when I met you a couple of years ago, you hadn't even been on a plane.
That's correct.
And we had to get a few drinks down you to even get you on a plane. So again, the whole thing is it doesn't necessarily have to change your life, does it?
Exactly. The things that have changed my life is I don't have to worry about money or worry about putting petrol in the car or anything like that. Financial independence for me means that I can live life on my terms and do what I want when I want, and do things for fun. And
so look, it's certainly the dream that a lot of people want.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a handout. You just didn't suddenly win the lottery.
No.
So tell them the tough stuff. Tell them how hard you've done it from the start.
Yeah, for me, I grew up in a blue collar working family, Western Sydney, and for me, I didn't want to have to go and work 40 years of my life. I thought that was risky. People say, buying property, all that sort of stuff is risky. There's lots of talks of people, with a mindset of fear. And for me, sure, debt, getting into property and having debt initially is a bit fearing. However, for me, looking at working 40 years in a job to retire at the age of 60, 65, and then dying or not having enough money to do the fun things in life was a bigger risk to myself. And for me, my parents worked in their 60s. My father died when I was 16 years old and had a heart attack. And money was something that was worked very hard for, and it was something that I didn't want to have to do that for the rest of my life. So at the age of 13, I got excited. My brothers are 20 years older than me, and they're buying a house to live in and all that sort of stuff. And I looked at the magazines, I was like, I want to buy a house. And I worked out a plan on how I could buy my first property when I was 18 years old. And then, from that, I just wanted to buy more, and it became an addiction. So, yeah.
And so you mentioned kind of books and things like that, and looking up to your brother going to do something. Was there someone that gave you a set plan, is follow these 20 steps and you're going to be successful, or are you kind of working it out on the fly and just adapting it depending on your circumstance?
It's an interesting question, Chris. For me personally, unfortunately, it was before time of internet and access to a lot of technology like we have today. For me, it was a matter of just being smart and creating it. There was no one that even thought about it. Like the first property, my mum was like, wow, congratulations, my son, he's 18, he bought a property. The second property was like, oh, good on you, pat on the back. The third one, she thought, stop buying property, getting scared and looking out for best interest. And the fourth one, fifth one, sixth one, 10th one, 20th one, they sort of felt that we had to have intervention. Like, this guy's going crazy. He's going to run off the.
He's got a
off
drug
the rails.
addiction for property.
He's a drug addict on property. But for me, I was blocking out the outside of things coming in, because when I first started investing in property, I had a plan. I treated my property investing like a business, and I wanted it to, come to me with an end goal. So each acquisition in my portfolio has played a key role in getting me to where I am today. So initially, when I was 13 years old, I wanted to buy a property. When I was 18 and bought my first one, I had a plan of what I wanted to achieve. And then after that, I just kept pushing forward and working
And
towards
most
that plan.
kids don't have that at 13 or 18, and that they've got set plans. Like,
Yeah.
were you a genius at school? Were you very clever at maths or anything like that?
The interesting thing, Chris, is I don't know if you've ever seen the UAI that I sometimes throw around, but I successfully failed every grade between kindergarten and year 12 in school. So it doesn't take a rocket scientist. I used to work 2 full-time jobs between the age of 18 and 24 just to be able to push myself to earn more money so I could invest that money into property and producing.
So it's maybe failing at school. Could that have been a good thing for you, thinking, well, look, I'm pretty dumb, I haven't got any qualifications, if I don't do anything, then I'm going to be a nobody for the rest of my life?
100%, because I didn't fall into conform to society by joining the matrix and going to university. Not that there's anything wrong with going to uni and all that sort of stuff, but I knew that I wasn't going to go and earn 6-figure incomes, hardly in my life. And I pushed myself to work, 2 average jobs to get myself into a position where I could invest all my money into property and to get myself. I was happy to sacrifice between the age of 18 and 30, and I'm 30 now. Got a lot of grey hairs in my head. When I first started, I had a face full of pimples, and now it's grey
So
hair.
once you get to 40, you get a haircut like this.
Yeah, it's getting there, mate. It's getting there.
You mentioned your mum, and again, it's good to pick up on these things, that by the time it's maybe your 4th or 5th property, your mum's getting worried and she's trying to hold you back.
Yeah.
A lot of people say you don't go to your friends and family for advice, because whilst they want you to be successful,
Yeah.
for most people, they actually stop them from doing something because they're protecting them from making a mistake.
Yeah.
But if you never do anything, you're never going to make any money.
Exactly, and I looked at a position, I had colleagues, I had friends, family, everyone in my ear saying, you should do this, you should do that, and I was getting pulled from every direction. I was like, I think the biggest thing for me is that I had a plan of what I wanted to do, and that was, I knew I needed to get 10 properties by the age of 30. I didn't know how I was going to get it, but I wanted to get 10 properties by the age of 30, and bought the first one, and I thought, that was hard, but I need to keep going down this road, I want to do this. And I went and bought the second one, third one. It was tough. It was tough to do it. But I've got a lot of people around me that have helped build their property portfolios nowadays that have gotten greater success at that certain point in their investing life than what I got to, because they're not making the mistakes. They've got someone around them. But fortunate enough, I blocked out, I'm stubborn, and I knew what I wanted to do, and I think the old saying, the world stands aside for the person who knows where they're going, is true on that front. The numbers don't lie. My goal of where I wanted to be was set in place. I knew that if I took every single step to get there, then it would be happy days, and here we are today. Yeah.
And it's interesting who to listen to, because again, what I'm hearing is from your brother, you're getting inspiration from him, because he's gone and bought a property at 30.
Yeah.
But again, the friends and family, a lot of the times, without obviously knowing your friends and family, a lot of the times the ones that are really vocal giving the advice are quite often the unsuccessful ones.
Exactly, and the most expensive advice would be the free advice that you'd get. And for me, I looked at the fact that I would only take advice off someone that would be, I'd take everyone's feedback and I'd process it and go, no, that doesn't fit in line with my goal of where I want to be. But I'd only take advice if someone came to me and said, I've got 50 properties. Like, there wasn't anyone that had 50 properties at the time that would sit there and say, oh, well, you should think about this or you should think about that, which, I'll only take advice if someone has the result of what I'm aiming for. And that's, And
now, obviously you moved on, you're very successful. Where do you look for inspiration and ideas these days?
Yeah, for me, if we go back to the start of it, actually, when I first started investing, I realised that people look at property on an emotional basis, and emotion will get you killed when making a business decision. And I, in turn, looking back, set up a business plan for my own property investing. So I looked at people that were successful in business and took from them advice on how they treat their business, and just think the property is a product of the business of what I'm setting out to achieve. So
were you actually interviewing these people, or were you reading their books, or just reading articles about them?
just saw they compose themselves on TV. I never read books. but yeah.
You can read now.
I can
You've
read
learned
now.
it.
Yeah, a little bit I can. Yeah. But with at the time, like in the early 2000s, like Jerry Harvey, Richard Branson, all those sort of guys, there's things that they did in business which it leaves a trail behind that you can actually go, okay, how can I adapt this into my lifestyle and and my plans? So a lot of people don't realise that just their own family and their own family budgets is a business, and it's how you treat that. Is how you
Now, a lot of people reckon, it's too tough to do it now, it's easy in your day and the rest of it, and they said the same thing to me like a decade before.
Yeah.
But the amount of information, the amount of inspiration, the amount of TV shows like this and internet shows, it's like, have people really got any excuse at all for not taking any action?
I've heard the same, per se, garbage that is out there today that I heard 10 years ago and I heard beforehand. I recently picked up an article that was from the newspaper dated in 1988, so it's 27 years ago, that said that first home buyers are locked out of the Sydney property market and you can't buy a property and they'll never be able to afford. I hear the same stuff on the news today, and the reality of it is that they're looking at properties, like they had a little price chart on it, said like you can buy in Castle Hill for $80,000 and Balmain for $110,000 and all that sort of stuff. The reality of it is that it's only your perception. Other people are out there worrying about, I can't do it, but it's actually people taking action and doing things. So it's. Yeah.
So again, we're getting a common theme with all the shows and all the guests that we're getting on this TV show is a lot of people are making excuses for the reasons they're not becoming successful. You might start with no education, no money, but Nathan's certainly living proof that you can make the most of it. Right, join us after the break as we find out more about why he chose property to make his wealth. We'll be back soon. Welcome back to Empire Builders. Today we're joined by Nathan Birch from Be Invested, and we're finding out how can you possibly make $35 million in property or have a $35 million portfolio by the time you're just 30.
Yep.
So thanks for sharing with us today. Let's start talking about property.
Yep.
Why invest in property?
When I was younger, I've always had drummed in my head that real estate and property is something that doesn't go down in value, which, it can go down in value, but I thought it was a solid investment. Like, people go into business and they can, have a business which is good, but then it can fail and those sorts of things as outside economic factors. But at the end of the day, everyone needs a roof over their head. It's a commodity, it's a supply and demand. And that's how I looked at it. As like, I think that a lot of people out there have good, solid businesses, but investing money into property and being able to, create passive income rather than active income is important. And I just wanted to have passive income. So.
And I think that's true for a lot of people because, look, we never know everything when we're young, but it's just ingrained into us that property is a solid asset. And look, we've been doing shows on here of business and shares, and obviously there's pros and cons to everything. Yeah. But property is the easiest thing to understand, isn't it?
It is. All you do is buy it, put a tenant in there, collect the rent, make sure you manage it, have systems and procedures like any business would, and adapt the same procedures to your investing. So once you set it up, it's pretty much smooth sailing, as you know.
And so I guess are they the main pros, or what are some of the other pros that you would say invest in property versus investing in shares? Because do you invest in shares or?
No, I did for a little while, and I remember when I was about 21, I had a personal loan of like $50,000 that I got out to put some shares on, and that was a debt that I had to repay myself. So it was something that property is something that I've ingrained myself in. I've treated it like a business. I've studied every part of property investing and how I can turn a profit from it, the risks, the pitfalls, and all that. And from a share side of things, there is money to be made in the stock market, but it's just not my thing, so I can't really comment on it. I think property is more solid and it's a commodity. You don't need a share, you need a house and a roof over your head. And
so do you think that's an important thing for people that are building wealth, that you've got to have a passion for it? Say if someone hated property and they bought...
To continue enjoying this presentation, download Bryn, the world's first business advisor in your pocket. To find out more, visit bryn.ai or search the App Store today.